Elementary education is really impactful, but third grade more so than ever because it's kind of an educational milestone or marker that we look at. Um, Third grade is actually when students begin that transition from learning to read to reading to learn, meaning reading is now beginning to be integrated into every other content area. So if a student is struggling with reading in third grade, we see them start to struggle in math, in social studies, in science. So I think it's a really pivotal point in a child's education. In 2017, I think it was, 70% of Black third grade students in St. Louis failed the state reading assessment, as opposed to 40% in the rest of Missouri. So that was really concerning. We have seen a big push for literacy in third grade, and I love teaching reading. And so for me, it was like a no-brainer that third grade was where I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to be a teacher. When I was a little kid, I used to play school with one of my neighbors that went to the school with me. And I knew then, you know, being the teacher, you're the boss and everything growing up. And so I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I love kids. I love working with kids. And so specifically third grade, I didn't really choose third grade. I've been teaching for a long time. So I've taught fourth grade, I've taught fifth grade, I've taught second grade. I looped up to third grade with my second grade class. And so I just wound up staying in third grade. This is my second year teaching third grade. So I didn't actually choose it, but I think third grade is a transitional grade. I mean, you're coming from primary, you know, being in lower and second grade, and then really coming up to intermediate. And even here at Mullanphy, you actually come up to the top floor, which is considered the intermediate floors for third, fourth, and fifth grade. So it's a transitional year for students. But it's a nice grade to teach. I mean, like I said, I've taught several different grades throughout my educational career. So, but I didn't actually choose it, but it's wonderful to work with kids regardless of the age for me.
I chose to teach third grade this year because I wanted to stay with my kids from second grade. So I taught second grade last year, and now I'm looping up to third grade with my class. But third grade is departmentalized. So I actually get to teach the English language arts classes to the whole third grade. So I will get to see all of the kids. And I really enjoy teaching English language arts. Third grade is such a critical year for your reading and writing skills. It's like the make it or break it moment. And so I just really thrive on that sense of urgency with reading and writing, but also like the kids feel that urgency. Like they know if they're not reading on grade level. And so being able to support them through this journey and give them the encouragement and like the cheerleader of keep going, keep trying that they really need, it's just so rewarding. And I love seeing how much students grow.
That is a really great question. I think part of why I really love Mullanphy is how collaborative we are, especially being departmentalized. Sometimes you see less collaboration between people, but really it's forced us to work together and be partners in our student success even more. We really believe in project-based learning, and being a science magnet school, I get really excited about that for obvious reasons. So I get to work with our math teacher in third grade, and I get to work with our ELA teacher to come up with some really cool projects that are cross-curricular and involve everybody in our building.
We're in the area that we're in. We're right down the street from the Missouri Botanical Gardens. So in the past, we still do, but we have a relationship with them. We're able to walk up the street and go to the gardens at any time. We just say, we're Mullanphy School, and they know about us. So that's awesome. We're focused on science. We have several gardens around the campus here that kids can plant vegetables and learn about science aspects of the school. We also have a large population of ELLs, English as a second language, well, as a first language in their homes. And so that's awesome. We have a large population also of autistic children. So our population is very diverse, as well as the staff here is diverse also. So we're one of the largest schools in the St. Louis Public Schools as far as elementary. And most of our students do not live in the community. They're bused in from several different places because we're considered a magnet school since we focus on science. So I think that makes us unique.
I think students naturally have so much wonder in them. They wonder about everything around them. They ask questions that we don't even consider asking anymore. They always want to know why, and they want to know more. And I think sometimes throughout education, especially if they don't have a really positive educational experience, their wonder is kind of stifled and they stop asking those really creative questions. And so my kids, I see it in them all the time, and I try to really encourage that. I do believe in my kids. I think that they're amazing, and I think that they're insightful and they have so much wonder, and I just want to continue to see that grow in them.
It's a transitional year for students, and what I try to do is get them, they start taking the Missouri Assessment Program test, the MAP test. And so I try to get them focused on more of the study aspect. I guess in the younger grades, it's not so much study, it's basically what you do in school. And now they have to start learning how to study and really focus on their work. And so I try to give them skills that they'll need as they get older. And so I like the aspect also, we have class meetings, and the kids are able to express themselves and things that they're going through. And I think it's really important as teachers that you try to form a relationship with your students first. If they know that you are down for them, if you will listen to them, love them, then they're more apt to do better for you as far as the work. And so third graders are, like I said, definitely unique. They're learning that they're not babies anymore. You're gonna have a little bit more work than you had before being in the primary grades, and you have to start focusing on studying and trying to do the best that you can. So
these third graders are so powerful. You would not believe the wisdom that comes out of a third grader's mouth. They understand the world. They understand what they do not like about the world, and they know exactly what they want to change. And they know that they have to work hard to change what they don't want to exist in the world anymore. So to listen to their perspectives, it just really convinces you to believe in them and believe in their vision for what kind of world they want to grow up into.
So I work with a lot of students of different backgrounds, and I particularly last year had a couple of girls who wore hijabs in my class. And we see this trend all over. It's not just within our school, but kids who come from different backgrounds don't know what the other child came from, and they don't always understand the purpose behind that. And so we had an issue of a couple of little boys getting really curious about the hijabs and wondering why they weren't coming off. And during gym class, they thought they were being helpful and was like, I'll take that off for you, and tried to take off the hijab, which if you know anything about that, that's just really hurtful to that human who was wearing the hijab. And so I pulled these two girls aside and I talked to the girls and I talked to the boys, and I really wanted to unpack those situations separately with them and find out what they were comfortable with. We actually decided to bring in a book that I really love. It's called The Proudest Blue, and it's a coming of age story with a hijab, and it's a really beautiful story. We read it out loud, and these girls actually lit up, and they opened up the floor, and they got up in front of the entire class and were like, ask me questions because I love talking about my job and it's something that's so important to me. And they just loved opening up the floor and getting to share that part of themselves. And then the boys, where this incident stemmed from, actually like took it upon themselves without even me telling them what to do, to go up and apologize separately and ask them what they could do to make it right, knowing that the apology in itself was not enough. I think that children are so inherently good and they want to be kind to each other. And it's about showing them that like it is okay to make mistakes and this is what we can do to rectify it. I just thought that was an instance of so much goodness within them.
I think I'm inspired every day with my kids. I mean, as long as I've been teaching, I learned something new. They bring new things to the table. If they're just telling me about their home life and things that they're doing at home, or sharing with me experiences they see at home, or even if I make a mistake, if I make a mistake, I allow the kids to say, well, Miss Herndon, that's not right, and that's okay. And I try to teach them it's okay to be wrong. You're not going to be right all the time, so I don't have one major, experience. I have a lot of my former students coming back to see me and telling me that the experiences they had before with me as I was teaching them, that it helped them. And that's the best feeling that I can have is, you think that the kids aren't listening to you when you're teaching them or when you're getting on their case. And so when they get older, high school, adults, and come back and say, well, what you said when I had you, in fourth grade, when you had me in fourth grade and fifth grade, it feels good, because I've been doing this for 23 years. So it's been a long time. I'm getting now my former students' children in my classes. So it's nice to have them come back and say that I remember what you said. It really helped me when I went to middle school and high school, and I still remember it now. So I don't have anything specific, but just those kids coming back and letting you know that what you said really helped me, as I got older in my educational process. So.
I think being a teacher in any demographic and in any situation during a pandemic is challenging. And then you throw on top of that our disparities in resources and the technology deficit that our children are naturally at. And that's not just at an elementary level. There are a lot of high schools that prior to the pandemic already were on a one-to-one basis with technology, and we weren't there yet. My students were fortunate enough to have iPads within the classroom, but they weren't being sent home with them. So we had some catch up to do immediately. We needed to find a way to get technology into the hands of our students. And that was our first mission right there. Last year, we were able to get technology. It was one device for every 2 kids in a home. But as you know, that's still not enough. This summer, we poured about $5 million, I believe, into it as a district. And we were able to get technology for every single student, which was doing much better. So just that technology deficit was challenging. And then you also throw in that you need Wi-Fi to be able to connect. So we had to get hotspots for our students. And technology is not enough either, because especially teaching science, I want my students to have materials in their hands. I want them to engage in the curriculum in a hands-on way, and that's hard to do online. I think our students crave authentic and meaningful experiences, and doing that online, again, is challenging. So just finding ways to promote that engagement. I mean, for example, the first unit we do that I'm trying to prep for right now is I teach my students about forces and pushes and pulls. And we usually go out into the playground and I tell them play, because I think students learn through play. And then I want them to think about, when you swung on the swing set, was that a push or was that a pull? When you pulled yourself up the monkey bars, was that a push or a pull? And how do I do that? Through a computer. And then we learn about magnets. I want to put magnets in their hands. How do I give them that? So these past 2 weeks, I've really been thinking about what can I put in their take-home boxes full of resources that will be enough to provide them with those experiences.
Like I said, I've been teaching for a long time. This is my 23rd year here at Mullanphy. And when I first started, technology wasn't a thing. So for me, being more of an old school teacher, it's been hard for me to really incorporate technology because I just don't know a lot about it. The kids are usually, if we were here in the building, and not virtual, the kids would help me as far as doing different things on the iPads, on the computer and stuff like that. So for my challenge has been just navigating my technology that I have to use to teach, and trying to make sure that I'm prepared to make sure that the kids are prepared. And they may be prepared a little bit more than me once I bring them the information, but it's just been hard also forming those relationships that I was talking about. Virtual, we see each other on the screen, but just being in person, third graders, they like that attention, they like to hug, they like to be in close proximity with their teacher and things like that. So it's hard to form those personal relationships with kids when it's, across a screen. So that's been a challenge, and trying to find ways to make sure that they know, even though we're virtual, I still care for you, I still want to make sure you do well and those types of things. So I think those two are the major challenges that I've had to deal with this COVID-19.
Being a teacher during a global pandemic has really challenged me in that so much of my building relationships with the students centered around sitting next to them, talking with them, listening to them. And doing that from home in a virtual setting was so hard, because when I'm moving around a classroom, I can just sidle up next to a kid and check in on them 100 times a day. And being in a virtual classroom, I don't have that easy access to be able to listen to a kid as they are going through their day and as they are navigating all of those little obstacles that pop up, which are plenty in a physical classroom. But then when you're adding learning new technology, there are just so many obstacles and it's easy to get discouraged. And so not being there right next to the kid to encourage them and to keep them going and to help them, whether it's tech support or academic support, that was the most challenging part of being a teacher in a global pandemic.
Relationship building is definitely the most important. And I think most teachers will tell you that, especially working at such an early age. I think the experience they have in school now determines their mindset moving forward regarding learning. I think my biggest goal as a teacher is to create a love for learning so that they can be lifelong learners. A lot of times, a lot of students, and especially students of color and families of color, will have negative experiences in school, and it really sets the tone for the rest of their educational experience. I have parents who come in who sometimes have a distrust for the system, and understandably so. They feel as though they may have been failed by the educational system that they went through, or that it's not set up in a way that benefits their students now. I know for my parents came from El Salvador, and my dad came here in high school. And so when he was thinking about enrolling me in schools, was nervous about what I would be met with due to his educational experience. And so I try to be mindful of that when I'm moving through a relationship with a family, and making sure that starting in third grade, they know that school is a place that they are welcome and that is set up with the best intentions for them.
Like I said earlier, I think the relationship part, forming those relationships, because if you don't have a relationship, it's going to be hard for you to get your students to do anything. even if kids act out and stuff and you have that relationship with them and they know that you are there for them, then they're more prone to do what they're asked, try. And so I tell a lot of my coworkers here, you know, if you don't have that relationship from the beginning, letting them know that they are safe with you, that they can trust you, that they can come talk to you, then it's going to be hard for them to get through the year with you. And so I try to make sure I tell kids, once you have me as your teacher, I'm your teacher forever. It doesn't matter. You know, I check on my former students as they go on, 4th, 5th grade, or whatever, you know, whatever grade I'm in, and as they move on. And I go check on them. I ask their teachers about them. And I just want them to know that regardless of how old you get, you know, even if you try to go to a different school or whatever, I still try to keep in touch. Also forming that relationship with the parents is important. I tell the parents that we're a team. It's not just me. It's me, you, and your child, your student, you know. So relationships is key to get kids, to me, it's key to get kids to trust you and do what they need to do to succeed.
Over summer, we automatically see kind of a progression or a regression, in academic performance. If a student scored on a 3.2 reading level at the end of the school year, when they come back, we naturally see them usually drop down to about a 3. So, and that would be 3rd grade, 2nd month versus 3rd grade. So we already see that regression naturally. And then you add in the stress of the pandemic. You add in the fact that they weren't face-to-face for the last few months. And now this is going to continue, right? Because we're at least 10 months, or we're going at least 10 weeks virtual for the start of the school year. I do think that we're better equipped now than we were when the pandemic first happened and when the school closures first occurred. But I do think that we have to consider that there is going to be a negative impact of this all for our students. And I think the best way to combat that is to try our best to connect with families from the start. If I'm not seeing a student on Zoom within 2 days, I'm calling home, I'm checking in, I'm making sure that they have what they need. I'm making sure that they're not struggling with food insecurity, or they're not struggling with housing insecurity, or they're not struggling with trying to work and also teach their children at the same time. So, because those are really big concerns of our families, and they're not just worried about the start of the school year. They have so much on their plate right now. So just checking in and making sure that they have what they need to be successful, and then worrying about what happens next with school.
I believe there's always going to be some type of learning gap, regardless. Not with all students, but there's going to be a learning gap. So I, as a teacher, try to differentiate my instruction. I have different ways that I try to teach. I'm the math teacher for 3rd grade. So I know some students learn by touching things and playing with things. So I have manipulatives that they can play with. So I try to incorporate different strategies to teach the kids. So with this gap with reading, we try to read we try to teach according to their level. And I have 3rd graders that may be on a kindergarten level still. I may have 3rd graders that are higher. So we try to get materials for those kids on their level. And that's what I mean by differentiating our instruction. It does take a little bit more time and work as a teacher, but you want to enhance a student's learning. And so I try to make sure that I'm hitting all the different types of strategies I can. If I'm teaching and something's not working, then I have to, go back and see what I need to do as far as trying to get them to understand. And just that's the key, I think, differentiating your instruction and making sure that you're hitting the child where they are.
Learning gaps are always going to be there. They have always already been there with our students. This is nothing new to teachers. We are prepared to meet the needs of the students. We know how to find what learning gaps each kid has. We know how to teach those targeted skills. I'm not worried at all because we know there will be gaps, and this is nothing new for us. Maybe we have more gaps than usual, maybe not. This is so different. Some kids learn so much better on the technology, so they won't have as many gaps as if they would have had if they were in the classroom. So I don't feel like the learning gaps, like it is scary as an adult, like a parent, like being concerned about your kid learning and are they on grade level, and we didn't have our iPads working. But teachers are professionals. We know how to find those gaps and to fill those gaps, and we will get the kids caught up. Like I know that it's really worrying about the gaps, but honestly, I'm more worried about kids missing each other and being socially isolated from each other. That's the part that really hurts. We'll take care of the kids. We'll teach them what they need to know. We'll fill in those gaps.
Every student needs different things from me. And so throughout the year, when they're in person, I'm able to adjust and pivot a little and give them what they need. And that's harder to do. Right now, we're setting up boxes for our students full of resources. But what I need for them now might not be what I need for them in a month. So ideally, like I would love to set up a distribution schedule where they can come maybe once a month or so to get what they need depending on what we're going over that month, or whether that be by mail or distribution. I'm not really sure what that would look like. I wish I had a better answer for you on what my students need. It's easy to say this isn't working, but it's hard to say what would, you know? But I think the biggest thing is finding a way to create content that is engaging and meaningful to them through a screen.
I mean, I think my district has done a pretty good job of getting things together. There's so much stuff out there, and just basically, as I said earlier, being able to differentiate my lesson with the kids, even though it's virtual. Also keeping it simple, because since the kids are at home, we don't know what they're dealing with. We don't know the environment they're dealing with or what they're living in. And so we have to take that in consideration when we're trying to get them online. They probably are on a schedule. And so we have to be flexible as far as, you know, our teaching. We may have to record lessons. They may have to see those lessons later on at night when their parents are home to help them. So we have to make sure that we are being as flexible as possible to make sure that the kids are able to learn, because we don't know their home life. We don't know what they're going through. And I think there's plenty of information out there, though. I think a lot of websites and things have become free that we can use as supplemental materials from the curriculum that we have to teach, you know, in the district. So I think there's a lot of stuff out there that can help the kids as far as moving up or improving or becoming successful. So with us, I just want to make sure also with virtual that I am prepared to teach them and to teach them to navigate through the systems that we have in place for them to be successful and for me to teach from. And so that's my concern, is basically me. Once I'm comfortable with the technology, I'm pretty sure that the kids, you know, kids are resilient. They can sort of latch on and learn quickly. So once I get comfortable, I believe they will be comfortable with the virtual learning. So
I'm actually really excited about our school's plan for virtual learning this year. I think that we have been working so hard ever since March to figure out the best way to teach from a virtual setting. We have so many more tools that we can use. We have a better understanding of all the technology that's available to us. We know which technology to use and which technology is not worth the struggle with using. I feel like we're in a really good place, and I'm excited to spend the first month trying it all out, putting all of our plans in action, and then I'll know more after about a month about what challenges or what struggles or what I wish could have been more improved. But as of right now, I really like our ideas and I'm excited. I think they're going to be really effective.